Ladies and gentlemen, in a situation where 41% of the future employees of a firm may have suffered a mental illness beforehand, the proposition this afternoon wants to tell you that in fact they should probably have less of a chance of ever being employed than anyone else. You see, there are two practical outcomes of what the propositions model is actually going to suggest. And on the negative today, we're going to stand up for the rights of all people to have a job, not just the people who don't have a predisposition to mental illness. So, before I go on to my substantive points, I've got two particular issues that I take with the proposition's case. The first of all is this idea that there's a difference between work-related psychological or mental health disorders and other kinds. Ladies and gentlemen, let's clear this up right now. There's only one kind of mental health illness, and that's the really bad kind that needs to be dealt with. To try and suggest that it's got a genesis in one particular area over another, and that people who suffer mental health illnesses purely because of where they work and what they do, as opposed to where they pick it up anywhere else, is really, really unfair. And we think that it's a really bad situation. The second thing is, no thanks, Jess. The second thing is, when you have a situation where you single out junior lawyers and say that they are going to be preyed on within a particular firm, we think that that's been really unfair to junior lawyers. We think that people who have worked that hard to put themselves through years and years of law school have done really well to get themselves into what's been defined by the proposition as a top-tier law firm. We think that those people are smart enough to be able to look after themselves. We think that they should have the ability to make a decision about what they do with themselves and their lives. And we don't think that the proposition's case really addresses the underlying condition here. So, first of all, yes, Jess?
Okay, if the senior partner perpetuates a culture whereby younger workers are stressed and don't take time for themselves, then why should they not bear responsibility for that harm to those junior lawyers?
Alright, I'm going to have a closer look at that in my second point on the substantive. Now, I'm going to have a look at three particular points, and I need everyone to keep that question in mind, because it's a really bad question. So, first of all, we say that this is a really unfair burden on the employers, and we think that that's going to have a bad detrimental impact on employees. Second of all, we think it's unhelpful for employees who really face a problem in this situation. We don't think that this is the best way to deal with mental health issues. And thirdly, we're going to talk about why it's actually detrimental if the proposition's case was to go ahead. So, first of all, let's have a look at the situation whereby, you've got this breakdown of individual responsibility in our society, right? That's what really this is all about. If you're not careful about what you eat, you get acne. If you're not careful about whether you exercise, you get fat. If you don't look after yourself, you get mental health problems. We've heard a couple of speakers today. They've all said the same resonating thing. You've got to look after yourself. You can't wait until someone else comes along and tells you how to do it. The responsibility for your own well-being is entirely yours, and it's no one else's. So in a situation where we go from being told what to do by doctors, by teachers, to we're being told what to do by our government, to being told what to do by our parents, at some point society has to stand up and say individuals need to take responsibility for themselves. So from that perspective, we bring you these three points. First of all, it's an unfair burden on employers because there's no clear nexus between a partner's actions and the mental health issues of their workers. We say that mental health issues stem from a number of reasons, and to try and arbitrarily decide who you've got to break down because of work and having to work too much, and who did it because they're going through, say, family issues or marital issues at home, relationship issues at home, is a really arbitrary divide. It's not giving you a quality outcome because the person who might actually be suffering that harm gets overlooked based on someone who just happened to work a few more hours the week before. Secondly, we think it's really unhelpful for partners to be responsible for employees' mental health. We think it's unhelpful for this really clear reason. You see, if you give an employer responsibility over your life, then part of that is giving them control. Does this mean that when you show up to work on a Monday morning and you say, boss, I feel really bad, I need to go get counselling, is he going to turn around and say, well, did you go out every night last week? Did you not get enough sleep? Were you out partying too much and arguing with that terrible girlfriend who I told you to dump last week? These are all valid issues. When is the partner not going to be able to turn around and say, well, if you're going to bring your private life to work, I'm going to tell you how to run it? And see, that's exactly the problem with the proposition's case. And remember Jess's last bad question when we're talking about this. So, the third reason for why this is going to be really detrimental. Right, I'm going to look at this in two particular levels. The first is that it creates a stigma. All right? The second is the question of why the lawyers actually work so hard. Right, so for the first reason, if you have a creation of a stigma in this workplace, if you start saying that employers have to bear a financial cost for every time one of their employees gets a mental health issue, do you know what's going to happen? Every single employer in the interview process is going to start saying, well, do you have a predisposition to this kind of case, and are we likely to have to pay for counselling in the future? That's the reality of this type of situation. If you allow employers to ask those sort of questions, then you seriously affect 41% of all of their future employees. We think that that's a really, really bad case. And look, you'll hear an argument from the other side that'll say that, oh, that'll never happen, it's against the law. Well, to that we say bullshit. All right, if the law determined every single one of all of our actions, I would never speed. And Josh would never park in bad places. And he got a speeding ticket the other day, so you can't argue against that logic. So the second reason for why this is really detrimental is to have a look at why lawyers work. You see, people who study law, like most of the wonderful people in this room, are really hard-working, driven people. We want to succeed in life. We're good-looking, we achieve, and we really want to do well. And see, that's why we work hard. That's why we turn up to work at 7:30 in the morning with a cup of coffee in our hand and blearily trying to get our eyes open, and we don't leave till 10 o'clock at night. It's not because the boss chains you to the desk, it's because you want to get ahead. See, no one's stopping you from going and working for the Queensland government, where you can work for 7.25 hours and get 3 mandated breaks a day. All right? People who do that can do so. People who want to work in top-tier law firms are seeking something else in life. They're seeking the financial reward that comes from working that hard, and it's their choice to do so. Right? They are driven, effective, hard-working people who are seeking a higher station in life and more money, and that's a simple fact of the matter. So when you start saying that they should be forced, yeah, you're right, that time, when you say that those people have done something wrong or done something bad, and so therefore their employers should have to wear some kind of burden, is actually misreading the situation at the grassroots level. Right? The reason why people work hard in our chosen profession is because we want to get ahead. And so that's not something that our bosses should have to be penalised for. So what have I told you today? First of all, I've told you that it's an unfair burden to put on bosses because what you've heard from the proposition is a complete